Okay, great. Well, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Christine Tsai, CEO and founding partner of 500 Startups. I'm excited to be here today with Martin Besseri, CEO and co-founder of ApplyBoard. ApplyBoard's mission is to educate the world. They empower people around the world to study abroad and access the best education. Their platform connects international students and recruitment partners to educational opportunities at institutions in Canada, the US, and UK. ApplyBoard recently became 500's newest unicorn company, which they announced last month, I think just back in May. They closed a $75 million round at a $1.4 billion valuation. I'm looking forward to today's conversation and hearing from Martin both his advice for founders and CEOs navigating through COVID, as well as his learnings building the company to where it is today. And then very importantly, his insights on how COVID is reshaping EdTech and the education landscape and what that means for certainly for founders, investors, but for students.
Hi, Kirsten. Thank you for having me.
Yep, thrilled to have you. So, it wasn't too long ago, I think back in 2017, 500 invested in ApplyBoard through our Canada and Vietnam partners. And you founded the company with your brothers, Meti and Masi, back in 2015. I think it would be great to have you share your personal experience and why you started the company and let the audience know what that was like.
Yeah, our company just founded very accidentally. This is what happened. So in 2010, I came from Iran to Canada to do my master's in engineering. And I loved Canada. I thought like, oh my God, this is like the new home. So very fast, I tried to bring my brothers. My process took over a year. Then I've done it in a couple of months for my brothers because I already went through the process. The biggest problem is like, there is not a single source of truth. You have to like discover on your own. Information is very fragmented. Everyone's saying something. You call two lawyers, one say it's possible, the other person say it's not possible. So there's nothing that you can confidently say, yes, this is possible and this is how to do it. Then we started like helping other people a little bit while we were a student, and it was just like a side hobby, and then it was gone. I was an engineer. I started working as an engineer for 2 years, and then I wanted to go back to entrepreneurship. Now at this time, my brothers are also almost graduate, and they started their own companies. And back in Iran, before I come here, I had a startup, and we were like making it was more like a research startup where we were like making different prototypes of things. Sometimes we were selling them. It was a lot of fun while I was in my undergraduate. I started that when I was 17 and then sold all the patents and stuff 22 before I come to Canada. 2015, I quit my job. I didn't have idea, but people during those times that we were helping people in 2011 and 12, it kind of made some reputation. So people are still like making inquiries. So I have no job. I tried something for 9 months, didn't work. So it was absolute failure. And I was like, okay, what am I doing? Now I'm running out of money. Remember, I'm an immigrant. So I came to the country with like less than $7,000 in my pocket. I don't have an uncle who can offer me a job. And I went through a lot of my money already. So I said, okay, why not I go back and help a couple of people. The first students I helped, they were like, maybe we can automate this. So I started talking to my brothers, and then we brought a couple of friends. And before we know, University of Waterloo Incubator Center called Velocity, they gave us free office, and it just became official like that. And May 2015, we started the company, and before we know, by end of the year, we were like 10 people, 10 people. And then the rest is history. So 5 years ago, exactly, we started the company.
Nice. And how many people are the company today, or how many employees?
520.
So going from just the three of you to 10 to now 500.
Yeah, it was like 10 by end of the first year, end of second year, 2016, we were almost bankrupt. So we became like 20 people. We blew like, I think we raised like $900,000 and the entire money almost gone. It was only $200,000 left in the bank account. So we decreased back to 12 people because, you know, students apply and we don't get any revenue till we actually like ended up hired, like coming here. So we had cash flow issue and I couldn't raise capital. You know, also my English was not very good. So I had one investor said, "Oh, come to China. We can fund you." So in 2016, I went to China just with the hope of I can raise from China. And if you remember, 2014, 15, 16, China venture capital was big, right? A lot of money. But very soon they closed every single money going out of China. So a couple of months later, I had to come back. So literally till end of 2017, till like June 2017, we were struggling. And then, you know, we raised from 500, we raised from Candy Ventures, and like from 50K check here and there. Finally, we raised another $1 million and our revenue started coming. End of 2017, we were like 25, 30 people.
Yeah.
And in 2018, we raised our A from Ariman Ventures, 17 Canadian, like about 13 USD. And then by end of 18, we were like 80, 90 people. And then by end of 19, we were like 300 people. And now we're 500 people. And then every year, like in March, April, May. So May 18, we raised A. April 19, we raised B. And March 20, we raised C. So you guys can guess where the D comes.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned before, I mean, for everyone listening, so Apply Board helps facilitate the access for international students to find educational opportunities outside of their home country, both high school, undergrad, postgrad, although a lot of the activities more in the undergrad sector. So how many students have used Apply Board to apply to colleges?
Around 100,000 students.
Okay, great. And it sounds like a lot of the, like I mentioned before, it's primarily institutions, Canada, US, UK. How about the other geographies?
No, primary, it was Canada till December. And then in January, we did a soft launch to UK, to US, but we did like a major launch to UK in April. Now, like we have mostly Canada and UK. We are not pushing US yet that hard. It's in the plan of like, we have a different strategy because, for example, in Canada, 250 institutions hold like welcome new students of almost 350,000 new students per year. And in US, 260,000 students go, but they're in over 1,000 students. Over 1,000 schools. So the concentration of international students in Canada is almost 20% of classes are international students. In US is only 5%. So despite the fact that numbers are almost same, but it takes longer for the US. So it takes longer time to like make all of the partnership in the US. And also the current environment of visa and security of like people have be able to like seeing like, hey, if I come, I want to also do an internship, or maybe after my studying finishes, I may want to work for a year or two to get some experience in the US as well. Because people come for education. Part of education these days are internship and work. Like it's like a hybrid education these days, right? Most of the universities offer internship. And because of the visa things, like right now, Canada and UK are the most favorable for international students. And US is completely left on the fourth rank after Canada, US, Australia. Canada, UK, Australia. US used to be first one, but the last 4 years completely lost the momentum.
It's interesting. Well, you know, I mentioned earlier about Apply Board now being minted as a new unicorn. So of course, congrats on that milestone. you guys raised 75 million, which I'm sure, you know, during a global pandemic is quite unprecedented. And I know that you guys closed the round at the end of, I think around the end of March, and that's right when COVID really accelerated. I think especially definitely in the U.S., but in many countries. How did you pull that off?
It was the hardest thing. I always say, like, during the last 5 years, we went through a lot of ups and downs, but I had never experienced something like this. So we started our fundraising February, and we started like meeting people. By end of February, we got like 4 term sheets. We're happy, things are going well. Oh yeah, this is this thing, COVID. Some people were asking, but it's like more in China. And if you remember, the China numbers end of February started coming, and everyone said, "Oh, it's good." And starting the March, we wanted to basically, we were like shopping around to get the best deal. Yeah, this valuation is this. And starting the March, it was like, if you remember, when the stock market was coming down, when the numbers start getting big, and it was some political starting of whether they should close or not close and everything else, it was completely a panic mode. Like, if we remember, it's only 4 months ago, but to me, I can't remember. I can't like believe how fast everyone went from a normal mode, optimistic, oh, stock market going up, to absolute down, till like 20th of the March. It was every single day it was coming down. And so I have investors backed out. I had signed term sheets that the guy didn't fund. And also at the same time, we have Drive Capital, who led our round, called us and said, hey, we are long-term holders and things like this doesn't affect. And we believe in you, we believe in the things, education not gonna die. And we just want to show you that we are with you even before we funded you. And I'm so happy that we chose Drive Capital more than the other investors, because, you know, we had, this one is like, we closed around like 80 million, and we had like over $100 million term sheets as well from one party. And we decided to go over a smaller money from multiple people. And I'm so happy we did that. Like, we chose the right partner, and when things become hard, they stood behind us. Not only us, there is another of my friend who closed with them during the same time. Kudos to them. And then Fidelity, Antos, Ardiman, BCV, and Canadian Bank Development, they also like basically joined around. My current investors were very supportive, and, you know, it's come along. It was hard days. I remember I had to let Drive know that we can do the first closing. And everyone was saying, oh yeah, put a pause on it. It's gonna go away for a couple of months. I couldn't, like, things are going down. I was like, I can't. Everyone's doing layoff. Like, my alternative is to go to my employees and say, hey guys, we need to like do some stuff. And I knew we need to grow now. I can't lay off people. And also I have an obligation as a CEO with my employee. Like, oh, this is unprecedented. No one fault it is, but like, you know, we have responsibility toward our employee. So I remember from Thursday afternoon till Monday morning that we need to let Drive know about the first closing. Till like Sunday noon, the money come together. So during the weekend, like, from Christine, from pitching to investors for $100 million check in February, end of February, we went to call people for $100,000 check. And literally just like, please put in 50K, whatever you can do so we can hit the minimum threshold that was on the term sheet. It was an interesting time. Like, I definitely don't want to like experience it again, but I definitely also not willing to exchange the experience that we went through with anything else. It was a good learning path for me and my team in during a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think it speaks a lot to Drive and to the other investors that didn't pull out, because that probably was, a lot of companies and I mean, founders that you've seen around you. They didn't, unfortunately, did not have that experience. There's been, a lot of founders who even had signed term sheets and everything was what they thought was committed, and then as COVID accelerated and the stock market was in a free fall, a lot of the investors got cold feet, and unfortunately it puts the founders in a very tough position. So they had term sheets pulled or retrading on terms. So definitely definitely good for Apply Board and for you as a team that that didn't happen, even if it was less than the target. But how, I guess, like with the impact of COVID, certainly on the fundraising side, how did you respond within Apply Board itself with the company and the operating plan, and like how did you handle it from that perspective?
Yeah, just to close the comment on the last topic, also my current investors really like came handy, and I'm so happy like I partnered with them. Like Antos Capital came into the game last minute with like a bigger check. They had to go get their LP approval because it was like an extension of their fund, and Ardeman Ventures did the same thing, and like even like smaller funds like Plug and Play, Can Do, Garage, everyone did whatever they could do to make this happen. So it was really a team effort between me and the investors and my team, and it was beautiful. It was like a harmony of 20 people making calls over a weekend to get people like excited. I remember I had one VC call at 11:30 p.m. on Saturday night. I never experienced something like that before, but that was good. On Applied Board, that was another thing. So first, it was no idea of when border is gonna open. It's still not open, and so the trajectory was like we help our students to come on abroad. I knew like universities are able to teach online because of Zoom and other technology, and remote learning is already practiced, but these universities were not ready. So the May semester, which is, I'm so glad that May semester is the smallest semester during is a summer semester, not that many students come. That got really impacted, and most of the students deferred to September and January. But a lot of schools ramped up very fast, very fast. They done the learning. A lot of them they didn't believe they could do, but they made it possible. And for September, almost like 97% of them are clear. Either they're opening or they're doing online. So, and also government of UK and Canada, they came handy and they said, doesn't matter if you are doing it online or on campus, you still get the full benefits that later on you need for your work visa stuff. So people kind of like felt comfortable. So now we have thousands of people from their home country getting Canadian and British education, and they're good to go. So the trajectory is very positive from our side. The other thing that it was good, we signed so many universities and colleges during this time because they couldn't travel to other countries to recruit the students, and we are the only online player who can serve them during this time. So it was like people were turning us away and said, no, I really don't need, I have my 40 team that they can do it. They called and said, they can't travel. Can you guys like help us? This is application season. We cannot like wait 5 months or 6 months for border to open, which they didn't. So we actually had 200% month over month growth on the school side contracts. Well, that was very good for us.
No,
And
that's
we found one of the biggest customers for the geography that they were not giving us contract. And so happy is that school alone is like, it came to one of our top 10 schools that the students go to right now. And it just happened in a matter of a week. And imagine for 5 years, they were rejecting us.
yeah.
And in a matter of a week, things like turned to our favor. And I'm so happy because we can help the students now go to more broad selection of schools.
Yeah, it's I mean, one thing that's been pretty remarkable, both in a good way and bad way, is just how quickly the pandemic forced people to change, like or industries to change. So like you said, like either universities that just, wouldn't give you the time of day for years and years, suddenly, are now customers. And you're seeing this in a lot of different industries. And you mentioned that, education definitely it's not going to die, right? There's never going to be a decrease in demand for education. But it does seem like even prior to COVID, there are changes that are happening, and education is such a broad industry. There's so many different facets in which it'll change. Given that given the space that you're in, especially with helping students apply and access colleges, and for colleges to also be able to access students, how do you see COVID impacting that part of education, as well as just broadly like ed tech?
Yeah, I think it just accelerated the adoption of technology, and also adoption of faster and agility, because traditionally, like for example, a lot of the IT offices, any small changes they wanted to even make on the website, they were like, oh, on the roadmap it's gonna happen in 6 months. Now everyone like on their toes, and they got the need that, oh, things can happen and we need to be fast, and we need to always partner with the best tech companies, which is amazing. Because a lot of startups came handy during this time, versus traditionally in higher education, the thing is, oh no, we're only gonna work with Microsoft of the world and Oracle of the world, only the big tech companies, and the sales process take 2 months, 2 years. And now it's like, no, I need the LMS system now, and that should be up and running next week. I think first, the confidence that it gave to all the schools that they can teach online, that's amazing. Number two, the infrastructure of the students can understand that what they can learn online. But it also raised a couple of big flaws in our system. Number one, testing. Testing is a huge opportunity for whoever wanna come, because we figure it out. Yes, we can teach you online on Zoom, but the traditional testing cannot be just replicated on online, right? I'm talking about traditional, that you get a paper and you write your exam. The other, like basically the other thing is like, it came a lot of like thing of, oh, maybe education all go online one day, which I don't think like 100% gonna happen. But then the other thing is the assessment, right? How is the assessment like? Are you willing to go to a dentist if the dentist didn't go to college and just learned on their own? Probably not. You want to like make sure like the person who's working on your body is fit. Are you going on a bridge that person just learned online how to design a bridge? Probably not. We want to make sure like the bridge is safe, right? So that assessment piece, but people can learn online some of those things. So the assessment piece is gonna become big. The third thing I think is gonna be huge, gonna be the experience. Today, we don't go to college just because we wanna learn. We go because we wanna find friends. It's a social club. We're gonna learn how to be confident. We're gonna learn how to learn other skills. And if we are going to spend more time at home and learning online, those vacuum of experience is an opportunity for other things, like for those social bond, for those club activities, for those things. So these are all new opportunities that COVID showed to the world that it's needed. And I think EdTech, it was always good, but I think going forward would be amazing and amazing. Let's not forget, healthcare globally is a $6 trillion market. Education is $5 trillion. So it's almost same size of the market. Market capitalization of companies in healthcare is about $10 trillion. But when you come to education, it's about $200 billion. So we are 50-fold behind a similar industry. Means we're gonna have 10, like we need like 5 Amazon to just get the same field. Means what? Like we need $5 trillion companies or $150 billion companies, right? Or 5,000 $1 billion companies. I think there are a lot of things can be done on education, and it's a great opportunity for any startup.
Yeah. like on that note, in terms of opportunities, and obviously now there's a lot of this forced change because the constraint brought on by the COVID is forcing universities, like either they change or they die, right? So now, and if there is any notion of a post-COVID era, I don't know. I think like even a couple months ago we kept thinking, oh, we'll get through this, but now it's like it's kind of unknown at this point. So to say post-COVID is, I don't know what that means, but in any case, like where do you see the opportunities in terms of education and disrupting education, and where you think in the long term things are going to go?
Experience, assessment, personalization. I think every single one of them gonna be big. Like we're probably gonna have 10 unicorn in every single of the sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even talk about the actual online content and teaching online. I said, okay, let current companies even handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Testing gonna be big. Experience beside it gonna be big. And the personalization. Like when you are in a college, you hear your friend say, oh yeah, I've done this, I took this course, oh, this professor told me this, the hallway talks, oh, I got a job offer from this company for my summer internship, and they told me also don't forget to take these 5 courses, it's very necessary. But if you are all remote and we are just getting a one way of knowledge from the teacher online, how do we get those hallway talks? Isn't like the reason that we are paying 50 grand a year for education is a lot of it is the other things beside the classroom that we have with the professor. So all those become opportunity now. Learning what is the best path to be the best data scientist. Learning how to be a great business major and getting all those other exposure, the communities around. I think we're gonna have like a lot of community websites for education where people can learn and they can learn from each other. Peer-to-peer gonna be very big as well, Here's the thing, does, if I wanna learn about basic of startups, do I learn it better if I go to class ABC at the University of X, or if I learn it from you for a month? Just watch what you are doing, how you do term sheet, how you do red line, how you negotiate, of course, right? So peer-to-peer education gonna be big. I don't know how long this thing takes, 20 years maybe. This is gonna happen. Like the knowledge of us, a lot of the knowledge is in here. So if we're able to give our knowledge to other people, I think that would be big.
Yeah. I think a lot of what people have been talking about with respect to the industries that are going to be disrupted with COVID or they're seeing actually benefiting from what's going on. So health tech, sorry about that, health tech, education, and then specifically for education, there's a lot of discussion on the future of learning being remote. Some are very hardcore to say that it's going to go all remote. I know you don't think that, right? Because a lot of what you've mentioned around the experience is it's an opportunity, but that's what you don't get from a pure remote environment.
Yeah, I don't think that it's gonna be pure remote. Not like you wanna like have best labs are right now in the universities, right? Either like, or they're gonna be like, as I said, other opportunities that, for example, you have, I don't know, concrete labs all over, like you use them. So if I'm learning remote, I can just go and do my testing there. Like I'm an engineer and I did electrical engineering. Like some of those things you cannot like, you are actually building something. You cannot like build it at home. Like you don't have that much of, or like if it's a DSpace like programming, like every unit is $45,000. And you cannot like simulate everything. Like you gotta literally learn that, oh, the power outage, like on simulation, you're not gonna have a power outage, but in the real world, we're gonna have a power outage, right? So we're gonna learn some of those things. It's gonna change, but it's not, oh, in 5 years, everyone just start doing remote. No, not gonna happen. And still, most of people's best friends are their college mates. How will you replace that one? until the other silos of experience become big.
Right, right. So given, right now Canada is the biggest market for Applied Board, and there's definitely a lot of discussion on kind of preventing brain drain. I think that's the case for like a lot of countries around the world. But how do you see COVID impacting that, both with constraints on travel and but also how Applied Board is benefiting from this? Like, how could it? Do you see it potentially helping to decrease that, and more people stay in the country? And how do you see that impacting other countries as well?
I don't have a very, very clear answer for that. And I can tell you like a couple of observations. Like, for example, I'm from U Waterloo, right? University of Waterloo, a lot of the graduates, they decide first right after the school, oh, we want to go to the Valley to work for Google, Facebook, or go to Seattle for Amazon, Microsoft. And then now that, for example, Facebook said, oh, we're gonna like provide job for 40% of their staff, like completely on remote basis, and people can choose anywhere. Do you really have to go to another country to like be able to work for example, Facebook? The other thing that on a long term gonna happen, if we are gonna be able to start working on like remote to some extent, I'm not sure if you know or not, the word transfer pricing and remote, like between two countries employment, is extremely broken. You cannot like easily like hire someone in another country. They don't get benefit or something. You need to have an entity. So there are a lot of changes coming. In terms of the brain drain, it's too early to say. These are one of those things that they said, what is really post-COVID? Because a lot of people are like, oh, restaurants gonna be down, but even a small open up that they did for patio, we've seen like lineups started. So we humans like need to be socialized as well. We want to see each other, we want to connect. We have to see, but definitely not gonna be 100% similar to what it was before.
Yeah, agreed. So in the next, definitely for the rest of this year, but just with how things are changing, and then in the next, let's say 5 years, next 5 to 10 years, where do you see Applied Board going? Like, where do you see that kind of 5 years from now, what does Applied Board look like?
I think we look like a company that we, even more than what we are today, we are serving our customers. And we will be able to like serve them with more options, better experience, because we are a path for success, right? We are not selling education. We are selling them, we are helping them to become successful in their life. So I think other things, like especially with the data that we are collecting right now, to be able to help someone say, what is really a good path for you to go, like to become successful in your life? Maybe like the alternative is like, actually for what you want in your life, you should not even go to college. Maybe get this boot camp, and within 1 year you are good to go, because you don't want to like ever like make $500,000. You just want to make a steady work from home $80,000, and you really want to, and you are not a social person. You don't want this, you don't want that. So yeah, like I think 5 years from now, I can guarantee you that we are a company that is serving our customer way better than what we are serving them today. The numbers, the size, not only I can't say, I cannot predict. There's no way 5 years ago I could say we are here. A lot of elements we would have been better. We wanted to be better. A lot of elements I had no idea we would be here in terms of numbers. And in reality, it really doesn't matter. I'm not in this game for 5 years or 10 years. We want to like fundamentally change how people choose college. This is the biggest problem we're solving. 80% of people by end of their grade 10 have no idea what they want to study in their life and what career they want to take. 80%. And I believe that number should go under 10%. So majority of society, they're unclear. Why do you think we have a lot of college transfer or college dropout? A lot of them is like, yeah, I really took this I don't know, ABC course in my high school, or I really liked it. I choose that as a major. I came out and I figured out only 7% of people who have this degree gonna find a job, and the average salary of them gonna be $52,000. I don't think I wanna like have that situation. So we will be able to like making it more clear for people based on what they want in their life, what success means for them. We'll be able to show them the path for success.
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, it's obviously a while ago, but even thinking about being in high school and what major to choose and things like that, it was, I think a lot of people probably don't know. I mean, you're still pretty young, but even the resources, I mean, for me, that's like in the, the mid 90s, right? So even the resources were not, not really existent. And even today, there's probably more resources than before, but there's still a lot left to be desired, I think, for students. So I think it's not just what major you want to study, what college you want to go to, but even like there's so many other possibilities that, like you said, maybe it's even for a particular person, maybe college isn't the right path, maybe it's something else. So I think that's fascinating. Yeah.
Personally, I was using the software that majority of people have it during their high school time for career choosing. It didn't even have data science under lookup, and then I searched computer science. And what do you think the first job for computer science was? IT desk. This is the software that our high school students like given to choose what they want to be in their life. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't even have the one of the hottest future jobs like data scientist. It doesn't even have that one. So I think it's fundamentally a lot of things gonna change, and I'm so excited for that day, because we humans are extremely powerful when we are on the right track. And
Yeah.
we just, the thing that I always talk about education, we have, this is a brand for electronics, right? Apple. I don't have a Rolex, but that's a brand for watch, right? There is no brand for what enable you to buy all of these things. The brand that makes you successful in your life so you can create money to buy these things. What is the brand for success? 4,000 different universities in, for example, US alone. Is that the brand? The brand is online courses. The brand is Google to like search. What is a brand for success? We humans need a brand for success. And hopefully that will be us. Like, we try our best.
Yeah, definitely. So we have maybe a couple more minutes before I'd like to open it up to questions, but maybe switching gears slightly from talking about education and ed tech to kind of advice for founders. So if you can remember your path from being, with your brothers and just even trying to figure out like what this company is from the personal experience all the way to now, $1 billion company, 500 people and growing. What are, I think one thing that you mentioned earlier that probably a lot of people don't think about, but I think all founders would nod their heads, especially if they've scaled their company, is that the company, probably had one or many near-death experiences. And that's pretty typical, for a lot of companies to get to this point. But, what sort of advice, pretty broad question, but what sort of advice would you impart on founders who are still at those early stages?
I want to say, like, never give up. Things can turn around to your favor. Just persistence. Yeah, 3P: persistent, passion, and planning.
And how do you balance that with I guess, with your co-founders in terms of does one represent each P, or you all have all 3 Ps? Like, how has that worked from?
Or all of us don't have all 3 pieces, right?
Yeah.
Or all of us together don't have. Me and my brothers, I think the luckiest things that we have is us and the trust that we have between co-founders. Oh, that's a good advice. Trust. because we can upskill our like skills. We can learn if the people are passionate and driven that yes, I'm gonna be the best CTO, I'm gonna be the best CEO, I'm gonna be the best CRO. But trust is very important between people. You can have disagreement, but it's a like a lot of like earlier startups I see, they sometimes die because one person comes, hey guys, sorry, it's not for me, I'm gonna leave, work for XYZ company, they're gonna pay me 200K more than what I'm making here. And that is fundamentally ruining the companies. So I think that's why I always like say, start with your brother or start with your cousin or start with your college mates you play basketball with. Start with someone that you trust and you know under the worst condition, you're not gonna get the text, man, we need to talk. It's my life condition, I need to go. That was the best thing that we had, that I knew like doesn't matter how bad are the things, if I'm standing on their shoulders to pick the biggest star for the company, I knew that under the worst condition, I never see a wobbling underneath my feet. Their shoulders are always strong for me, and we built that foundation, and it just continued in the company. Of if people taking their ownership and they're doing what they're doing, that's the best company for them to work at.
On the I mean, on the investor side, as well as, maybe, your board, like what has, how can investors be, or how have they been helpful for the company, and what would you advise when, founders are, trying to think about like what they want to get out of their investors, what they want to get out of their board? Because, certainly for 500, we've invested in obviously Applied Board, but a lot of other companies, there's a pretty wide spectrum in terms of what founders like, how they put their investors to work, and some of them maybe don't know what to ask, or they do have a very clear idea, but ideally investors in your board are there as a good resource for the company. Like they're certainly not going to run the company ideally, but founders also, because oftentimes this is the first time they start a company, and they're not going to, most people will not start a company 10 times, that they try to navigate how to get leverage out of their board or their investors. Like what have you found for you that has worked well?
Yeah, I think the first thing is good. Talent is very important. Like really, like reach out, say, guys, I need someone. For example, 500 startup, they helped me to find my first colleague, my first employee in Vietnam, and person is amazing. Talent is very good because investors normally have a broader look. Oh, they know this company, this person is leaving. You say, oh, you want to like look at this other opportunity. Also, I believe like we entrepreneurs, investors are like classes that you have to take it and you graduate from them. So you basically like, you have to be a sponge of learning, and different investors have different things to offer. Like I have one investor who helped me a strategic thinking, how not to think for next year, think about 5 years from now. And I have another investor think about a governance. It's really different. I think the best thing is if you have that trust with if you can make an environment that you don't have to be worried about showing the things that you don't know to investors, and you've selected the right investor. So when they say, like, I really don't know how I should do this, can you help me? And that person doesn't come back and say, oh, you don't know, we better start looking for another CEO. Like, if you are comfortable of saying where you don't know, and they're saying, oh, let me find someone who knows this area for you, that's where investors comes very handy. But at the end of the story, all investors, when you are getting their money and if they're trying to sell themselves to you, they give you like a list of things that they can do. A lot of it, of course, investors are in the business of investing. So maximum like a day of their month come to you. But for example, one of the things that we do right now, one of my investors at this time that we were talking is interviewing one of my new people that I want to bring as a VP. Or I have another investor who is helping us with due diligence on the companies who we are thinking of maybe acquiring or investing, this type of things. The best thing about it, like you want people that when things are hard, they say, man, this is normal. This is a startup. Just keep going.
Yeah.
I think this is the best thing you want from your investors. Say, hey, I'm completely like drowned. I don't know, for example, I don't know, my best salesperson quit. My best developer is sick. My customers are yelling. We don't have money. And the only thing you want to hear from your investor at that time said, oh, this is normal. Let's call it startup. I think that's worth a lot. Because then you know, oh, okay, that's what we signed up for. So it's normal. Let me go find another salesperson.
Yeah.
Let me see if the sick person, if we can like find a doctor for him, you know? Let's see if I can raise capital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that perspective is super helpful. I think when you have, hopefully you have investors or founders can find investors or advisors that help bring that perspective. Because otherwise, when you're in the weeds, like every day is like something's always going wrong every day. And then you think, oh, why is there always something going wrong? But then you step back and then you need to hear it from someone else that, no, totally common. You're not the only one. It's much worse everywhere else, or something, and then they actually roll up their sleeves to help. So hopefully that the call that one of your investors is having with a candidate during this webinar, hopefully you'll have some good news after that. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. All right, so in terms of some questions, I see some questions coming in, so I'll read them out loud. I think these are some good ones. So a question, do you think that some of the changes that you've been talking about will move into the secondary school space? So I assume this is referring to just the changes with maybe how people apply and kind of the direction they go in, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think there is a concept of like continuous learning. The way that traditional was like, oh, you go to I start from high school. This is high school, and it's a box, and then it's closed. It go away. Then it's your college. Then it go away. Then it's work. It's gonna change. It become from your high school all the way to like lifetime learning, and continuously like upping yourself with experience and with knowledge. High schools, a lot of it has to be changed. Like a lot of it has to change. Like, Christine, one of the best things about our company is we have people from over 30 countries in the world. Our company, like we have majority of our employees are immigrants and they're working in different places in 20 different countries. And it's amazing to see how their K-12 education affected the way that they're thinking later on in their life, right? For example, Middle Eastern, China, Russia, they teach us a lot of math in the early days, and people are better in mental math. So when you're talking to them, you see they're calculating. And people, for example, in Europe, US, America, they teach them a lot of teamwork. So when you are talking, right away they're thinking about, oh, how is that collaboration going to work together? The best mix when you have the mix of diversity. But I think for companies to understand different education system and what is the best working on somewhere and be able to like put them together and offer them on the top up for K-12, perfect opportunity. Mm-hmm. So basically teaching that Iranian Chinese students about teamwork and teaching that American students about math.
Yeah, that's a good point in terms of like depending on where your educational upbringing is, there's more focus on certain things, country by country or region.
Almost like, for example, I'm from Iran, and we never learned anything about teamwork and stuff to the level that we teach here. On the other side, the level of math we go in our high school, and I went to a special school, is unbelievable comparing here, The place that I was in early elementary, like they were like, say, okay, what is 15 times 15? And here people use calculator. Even in our college, we were not allowed to use calculator for the hardest math things. Here
Yeah.
people in high school use calculator. So why should they learn the mental math?
Mm.
But we know it's important, right? Especially in business. You want to make a decision, oh, shall I hire this person or not? You cannot like calculate it by hand. You want to make a decision here.
Yeah, if there were if it was as easy as just calculate it to make those decisions, then it'd be maybe a lot less stress. But yeah, it's interesting also both by country and then also maybe even the era, because I mean, even for me, like as a parent, just seeing how my sons go to, you know, what they teach in elementary school today, it's very there's and maybe it's because of being in Silicon Valley in California. It's very much like kind of project based and about teamwork. I think, you know, they are pretty academic in other areas, but there's so much focus on something called PBL, project-based learning, and I feel like that's probably a trend now versus when I was, you know, that age, and maybe a little bit of teamwork, but now today it's like it's a very very big focus to the point that there's just a lot of interaction. I'm sure it's not like that everywhere, so interesting to see how that changes. Okay,
Yeah.
so a couple other questions. Could you share about ApplyBoard's corporate culture as an education company?
Yeah, good question. Um, I don't know, like, I know apply our corporate culture. What is a question that is related to the education company? Is that the question related to a single, like a angle from that portion? Do you understand the question?
Um, it looks as an education company. Maybe it's hard to say, but I think it's maybe describing what the culture, like how you would describe ApplyBoard's culture. I know on the website there's some description of, you know, values and but maybe how you would describe the culture um, of
Yeah.
the.
You know, like we exist because we want to help our students to succeed in their life. And our mission is to make education accessible for students around the world. And that's fundamentally important for us because education is the most powerful weapon in the world to come out of poverty. And that's what we care. So a lot of the culture is about value creation, and also about it's very diverse culture. So we don't have a normal corporate America politics, which is very good. Because, you know, people sometimes, even on an English base, they don't understand the slangs and stuff. So they just like move on very fast from things, which is very good. Very caring. We run a lot of like charities, events, fundraisings. Um, a lot of the culture, because we were in Rotterdam, we didn't have the money. Instead of hiring XYZ from Apple and another person from these, we kind of like put people and help them grow and give them the ownership, and then people grow. So that is kind of a trend that when you come, get an area and your growth is unlimited, you can go where you want to go. It depends on the deliveries. Very result oriented company in that regard. Yeah. And employees very much collaborate with each other. It's funny because when we did the employee survey, number one thing that people said, why do you work at ApplyBoard, was like, because my teammates.
That's great. Okay. One other question. So in your view, what's the total addressable market for ApplyBoard, both on the consumer side and the educator side?
Yeah. For if we only like stay on international education at this time, it's about $180 billion. And if we ever come to domestic market, it's about $2 trillion higher education market.
All right, great. Well, I think there are, if there are additional questions, definitely feel free to pop them into the Q&A. But otherwise, I guess like any last thoughts, Martin? I guess I'll give you the kind of the last word um, on either EdTech or ApplyBoard itself, or even maybe something completely unrelated. But any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah. Let me think. Maybe the one that I want to share is like something that I'm thinking a lot these days is how does 2025 would look like? Not the effect of COVID on next year or 2 years. Like, what are the fundamental change it's gonna put on humanity and in us in Canada, North America, and other countries? It's very interesting because it delivers a lot of opportunities for companies when you think that way. So maybe I invite everyone to think, how is 2025 look like in every single sector, right? Are we going to buy expensive cars still? You know, or are like, for example, one thing that definitely gonna change, everyone starts like thinking about the home that they are the other way, right? We used to only take like people who work a lot and like, oh, home is just somewhere that I go and sleep and on the weekend watch Netflix. Now it's different. So a lot of things gonna change. It would be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be, I mean, even from now until 2021, I wonder what's gonna, how things will look, but definitely 2025, I feel like what will fundamentally change for humanity.
Yeah. And on the fintech side, it's so fascinating. Seems like the debt becoming relatively speaking, and because relatively everyone is increasing debt to each other, it means there's no change. So it's kind of like we can go to an era of debt may not matter anymore because it's always relatively speaking, right? If I'm US and you Canada, and both of us had 1x our GDP in debt, and both of us now become 2x GDP per debt, what happened? Nothing. It only matters if I'm 2x GDP and you are 1x GDP, right? And then say, oh, I have to pay my debt and interest and everything. But if both of us are the same level, and I figured that, oh, debt is relatively speaking. Same for banks. Why no banks came down? Because all of them were getting the same thing from Federal Reserve, and they were allowing to give to each other. And it's very interesting. I think fintech gonna be 100 times bigger than where it is today in the next 10, 15 years.
Completely agree. All right. Well, thanks so much for the time, Martin. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. We're right at time. Martin, what's the best way for people to stay up to date on ApplyBoard, what ApplyBoard is up to?
Yeah, maybe follow us on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. Okay, great. So follow ApplyBoard on LinkedIn. We're going to be publishing this interview, today's interview on YouTube afterwards, so you can tune in to see any parts you missed or share the interview or relive the experience. But thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone. Have a great day or evening, wherever you are. Take care.
For sure. Thank you, everyone.